You drive yourself a brilliant race, maybe even make a last lap pass, only to find out you had yourself a lane violation. Is it time to get rid of them? Let's get into it. Lanes have been around for a very long time. It's the painted lines on the track that you're not allowed to cross. And yet, it's something that happens on a fairly regular basis. So is there something series can do to make them harder to get? Maybe a little less harsh in the penalty? Or maybe we should get rid of them altogether? I've been in racing long enough that when I was racing for the longest time, there were no lanes. As you can imagine, not having specified lanes meant that drivers being drivers, we were rubbing tires all the way coming up to the start. It was not uncommon for there to be a crash before you even got close to getting a green flag. And in fact, that is what brought the impetus to bring in lanes, to create separation before the start. But should that matter? Of course, it's the innocent people getting caught up in this stuff that is the problem, not necessarily the people spitting themselves out. You can imagine how upset you would be if you don't even get to start your race because two people decided that stacking up on top of each other at the top of the hill before the green flag was the best way to start their day. For the officials in the series, it's a problem too, not just because you have drivers crashing before the front. Not only does it cost you a lap, but for the series, it costs you time. The race days get longer. The races themselves take longer to take, even though they get less racing laps. There was no upside to allowing drivers to rub up against each other before they even got to the start. When it got introduced here in Canada, it was something that had been done overseas for at least some time. So it's not like it was a completely brand new idea. It's that it became instantly effective. It's one of those things where all of a sudden all of those pre-start problems disappeared. There were no more crashes coming up to the start of the race, with the exception of drivers coming up to the pack too fast after having spun out on their warm-up lap. And there's no real cure for that. We've talked about it. We got nothing. But now that you know that, it doesn't necessarily mean that drivers are going to feel good about getting a lane violation coming up to the start. So is there something better than painted lines to keep people separated? Back in the early times, some series tried using cones, others tried using barriers, and all of their results were exactly the same. Drivers hit them. See, the problem with physical barriers is it's a physical thing that you can hit. And if you put a physical thing you can hit on a racetrack, a driver will hit it. Somebody somehow will find it. Drivers hit cones and either got stuck in their cart or it got stuck in a cart behind them. They moved it so that the lane moved. Or if it was a barrier, exactly the same thing. A driver in one lane would hit it, knock it into the other lane, another cart would hit that, and pretty soon you've got chaos. The simple fact is that painted lines on the track are by far the safest and easiest way to keep lanes from being a problem. So I think we can agree that we're stuck with lanes. Nobody wants crashes before the start. Nobody wants cones and barriers to run into. But maybe the penalty is too harsh. Here in Canada, pretty much every series that uses them uses a 3-second penalty. Now personally, I hate time penalties because it's not defined. It could mean 20 positions for one driver. It could be nothing for another, depending on the circumstances of the race. If you want it to be a financial penalty, I think that's even worse, because all you've done is put a price on breaking a rule. And depending on budget, that price might be worth it. See, for any rule to actually mean something, it has to have a punishment attached to it. And it has to be a punishment that is harsh enough that it discourages people breaking it. So if we're going to redefine that penalty to be something else, it still has to be harsh enough to discourage people from crossing over those lanes. Time penalties do work. They do discourage the vast majority of people from crossing lanes. And when drivers get it, at least experienced drivers, they tend to be more embarrassed than they are angry at the series or angry at the rules. They feel bad for having done that because they know better. If it's a position penalty, is that going to make that pain of embarrassment any less? And for the inexperienced people who break the rule for the first time, that's okay. That's part of learning. That is a lesson that you're going to learn that you're probably not going to do again. And isn't that the point of penalties in the first place? It's compliance. It's gotta hurt. If it doesn't hurt, are you gonna remember it? So we're kind of in a bind here. If you don't like lane violations, you have to accept the fact that they make starts safer, they make them cleaner, they make it that much less likely that you have any sort of crash before the start. Your drivers get all of their laps, at least they have a chance to do it. Nobody's messing up their kart before they get to the start finish. It makes things cleaner and neater and safer. Redefining the penalty might be a good idea, but remember that a penalty has to be there that hurts. Drivers don't care about warnings. Nobody cares about warnings. It is the penalty that matters. So the penalty has to hurt enough to discourage people from doing it. It's got to discourage everybody all the time without exception. But I don't know. Maybe you think that lane violations should have a harsher penalty. It should be a defined penalty like a position. Maybe you like the 3-second penalty they've got. Maybe you think it should be financial. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. And as always, I will see you at the racetrack. That barrier, do you see that sign in the front of Goodwood there? Somebody has hit that. It is astonishing to say somebody managed to hit it.